Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to A Visit to the Mound. I'm Lark Smith, along with
Stan Huff.
Today, our episode, we will talk with hitting instructor Ralph Dickenson. He was a member of the 1969 College World Series champion Arizona State Sun Devils and drafted in the first round by the Minnesota Twins. He was the head coach at Western Washington from 1975 to 78, and then was a college assistant coach from 78 to 87 at Washington State and New Mexico. Since then, he's been a major league hitting instructor for several big league teams, including the Mariners, Brewers, Expos, Rangers, and Yankees. Ralph, somewhere along the way you crossed paths with my co-host Stan Huff. Can you tell me where and when you two guys ran into each other?
Well, I think that was with the Expos.
That's right.
About 2000 or 99, somewhere in there.
2001.
2001.
Yes, you're right.
The Expo organization.
That's true.
So did you have a favorable opinion of this guy, or did he know what he was doing, or did you have to instruct him on how to hit the baseball?
No, I didn't have to instruct him. No, he's got a good idea. He knows what's going on. Yeah, he was fine.
Well, it was a pleasure working with you and going over all those. We watched films on hitters and how you analyzed everything. It left a mark with me, and I thought, well, Ralph is good at this, and he is definitely got it straightened out. And in working in Clinton that one year, we had those hitters out every day getting after it, and you were there as well some too. So it was a very positive experience for me.
Yes, yeah, it was for me too, and that was just I would say maybe 4 or 5 years after I really got enlightened as to how the swing actually works and how the body performs in the order, and rather than having an opinion or rather than throwing stuff against the wall and hoping it sticks, but to work from a set of ideas and that are actually scientifically proven and like the kinetic link, and this is the way that the body needs to work to perform to its maximum, rather than say, oh yeah, you know what, I think that maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. No, if we look at the video and the video tells us whether we're working in proper sequence or not, then we've got a way that we can move on.
Now, just from an amateur viewpoint, I've never been a hitting coach, just a guy that played a little semi-pro ball. I've always thought there's basically two styles of hitting approach. I've got the Ted Williams approach, where you're kind of standing up straight in the box and shift the weight forward. Then you've got what I call the Charlie Lau theory that was basically taught to George Brett. To keep the weight on the back foot, turn, squish the bug, whatever. But those seem to be the two basic styles. Am I correct to that, or is there more styles than that?
Well, yeah, those are the two basic things, and I've coached both of those. When I was working at Washington State, I was doing the Charlie Lau stuff because he had just come out with all those ideas, and really, I was the pitching coach there, and really didn't have, my hitting thoughts weren't that good, they weren't that organized. But I started getting into the Charlie Lau stuff, and then going out and working with guys in the field house in the winter, and so we ran with the Charlie Lau stuff, and really we were pretty productive offensively, set some school records. But then the Ted Williams thing, like the Charlie Lau thing, is the linear. That's the linear move where you get off your backside and you're going forward. And the Ted Williams is the more stay balanced, rotate in place. You think squash the bug, but it's not really actually squash the bug. But so the Ted Williams, when it's all said and done, the Ted Williams style is more productive. It lends to more power production, and the Charlie Lau thing turned into the Walt Rinniak thing.
I remember that definitely.
It turned into major league production for some extra base hits, but not the power that you could generate using the rotational swing.
Yeah, I've always thought the Charlie Lau was more contact, and the Ted Williams was more power.
Yeah. Ted Williams, a combination Ted Williams. The Ted Williams thing is a combination of anything that you want.
Yeah, of course, not all of us have the hand-eye coordination of Ted Williams, so.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, to me, Charlie Louth theory, George Brett was his front foot hitter. I mean, he'd start heavy on his backside and stride towards and end up on his front side, and that everybody can't do that.
No.
Change-ups come into play, and, guys are swinging early because they're way out in front. So the more balanced and Ralph, we talked about this a lot. The more balanced and rotational, that was helping guys hit balls to all fields, and with some hard contact there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so, the Ted Williams thing that is really, I was introduced to that through a guy named Tom Robson, who was a major league hitting coach with Bobby Valentine for many years.
With the Rangers, yeah.
The Rangers
and the Mets.
And the Chivalati Marines in Japan. He spent a lot of time in the big leagues, and he got his information from a guy named Bob Keyes, who has a company called Biokinetics. He works out of Salt Lake City. And in the 80s, when Robson was in Texas with Valentine as the manager and Tom House as the pitching coach, they brought in Bob Keyes and his Biokinetics company. And at that time, and still to this day, they're the only ones to three-dimensionally videotape major league hitters in game. Now, a lot of guys have two-dimensionally videotaped guys in game, but not three-dimensionally and digitized. In other words, manually move their bodies so that every time there was a slight movement, about 110 different dots have to be connected, so that they came up with, they came up with, this is how the body works. These are the kinetic links. This is the kinetic chain. This is the kinematic sequence. This is the way it is. So it's irrefutable evidence. It's not opinion. It's fact. And like we've talked about, Stanley, in the past, of balance is one of those. Rotation in place is another. Rotation in order, big muscles to small muscles,
right.
And creating a bat lag where the bat comes last. Those are the fundamental. At that time, they were called absolutes of the swing. Which you call them whatever you want. That's kind of the way it happens.
Exactly. I got to admit, Tom House was he was a pitching coordinator with the Astros when I was over there, and we did that high speed stuff at Columbus, Georgia when I was there. They had every one of the hitters and all the pitchers. They had a kind of a high camera. A high camera over the pitchers and the hitters, to high-speed camera to do their movements. And I didn't know what that was all about, but that's part of that right there, Ralph.
It slows it down such that you can see every movement.
Well, they put these markers on our bodies,
right,
so they could, like you said, digitize it, and we got to watch that over and over again. I don't know what I was looking at, but evidently it worked. It worked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's even more advanced when they are going, like they're going to film some hitters like in a major league game. So they create a cube out of PVC that they put into the batter's boxes, and now everything that happens inside that cube is going to be captured by 3 or 4 like $40,000 cameras with frames per second, out the window. So as you say, every move, there's nothing missed. Nothing can be missed. It's the frames per second. It takes like probably 5 minutes for a swing to happen. It's that slow.
Wow.
And so the information. The thing that I got out of it before I met Tom Robson, my hitting thoughts were strictly opinion, and so I really liked that beat. I can remember the first time a guy named Lonnie Chase, who did net repair and pitching machines, sold pitching machines to big league guys, to all the spring training facilities out here. He came by. I was working for the Brewers at the time. He came by and said, "Hey, I've got a videotape that you need to see." And I said, "Nah, I don't need to see it. I got all the answers. You know, I don't." So finally, he said, "No." He said, "No, you need to see it." So I said, "No, I don't need to see it." So then he said, "Okay, well, I'm going to bring it by one time." I said, "Okay, you bring it by." So he brought it by, and I sat down with another one of our coaches, Rich Morales, and we looked at this. We looked at this videotape. I'm saying we looked at it 3 times in a day. We're taking notes on it. It's the most incredible thing we've ever seen in our lives. There's skeletons in there. There's measurements as to how far the stride length is and how far the head moves. And it was just an eye-opening situation. And so that's been what I've gone on from. My teach has always been off of those things forever, ever since then.
Okay, if you've got a player, let's say like a Will Clark or a Junior Griffey, it's got one of the sweetest swings on the planet, hits very well. Do you mess with them at all, show them all these analytics and stuff, or is it just the guys that are hitting 250 or below that you work with and try to get them to figure out these mechanics and get them to be better hitters?
Well, the perfect example of that is when Olerud went from when John Olerud went from the Toronto Blue Jays to the New York Mets. They had video of him playing for the Blue Jays when he was hitting the ball well, and then towards the end of his tenure with the Blue Jays, they wanted him to become a pull hitter. Well, he wasn't a pull hitter. Mm-hmm. And he was a guy who used the entire field.
Absolutely.
And so when he got to the Mets, then they did video analysis again of him, and they compared to what he was doing with the Mets to what he was doing with the Blue Jays, and they identified areas where he was off, and they put that back together. So we're talking about working with one of the best hitters around, a guy who hit 390 in the big leagues, right? And so if the individual is willing to listen to the information and run with it, then it's going to help him. I would say that Griffey would not be one of those. That's probably the best swing ever.
Yeah.
And so I was Griffey's manager in the late '80s in San Bernardino when he was 19. And so he's going along and he's struggling a little bit. His swing's getting long. His dad's out there often to watch him play, never interfering, always maintaining the distance. But so I say to Junior, I say, "Hey, you know what? We probably need to go out and do some extra hitting, see what we can do." He said, "Nah, I'm good." So about a week later, I said, "Yeah, let's set up the field and let's go out and do some early hitting." He said, "Okay, all right." So we go out there. I'm setting up the screen and getting things ready, and he's standing at home plate, and he says, "Hey, come here for a minute before we get started." So I walk up there to home plate, and he said, "I just want to tell you one thing before we get going." He said, "Don't mess with the Griffey swing." So he was probably not ready to hear the biomechanics stuff.
Right. Yeah, they have to be receptive to whatever you're trying to teach. Otherwise, they're going to just be, like Nick Saban once told his football team, your talent is your biggest nemesis. You think your talent is going to carry you through. You've been the best player on your high school team. Well, everybody at this level is the best player on their high school team. You've got to work at it still. You can't just let your talent carry you.
Yeah.
The best.
Well,
the best coaching as far as hitting goes is you watch, you take notes, and when they're struggling and they come to you, they're more receptive to listen to it.
Absolutely.
But with those ideas that you have, particularly the ones you got there, Ralph, it's you want to just spit them out right and just throw it all over them, but you really can't. They gotta be in a situation where they're willing to listen, and that was part of how I looked at working with hitters too, though. But we did a lot of hitting down at Clinton.
Yep.
We did a lot of hitting, so we had 5 guys that raised their average, and from 150 to 200. So, but they weren't. We had like one guy hit over 300, and that was it.
Did a lot of extra hitting in a pretty poor facility.
Exactly, like 6 hours a day. But hey, that's just the way it goes. We gave it a best shot.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'd say that now with all the analytical information that's out there and all the different cameras that are placed in minor league ballparks, that there's a lot of hitting going on. And at the big league level, with the types of machines that are available in the batting facilities underneath stadiums, guys are out there. Guys are always saying, well, pitchers are throwing 100, pitchers are throwing triple digits, and but you know what? The hitters are practicing hitting that every day, so they can turn that around.
Exactly.
They can turn that around like it was 85 back in the day.
I agree totally with that.
Well, also, part of the hitting philosophy that I didn't know much about whenever I was playing just semi-pro ball is the mental approach to hitting. I knew all about the mechanics and stuff like that, but the mental approach never really entered into my mind until the last few years when watching college baseball, pro baseball. I understand that you're looking for certain pitches and certain counts, things of that nature. Even when I was in semi-pro ball, I couldn't hit the curveball. I had my dad throw me bottle caps that I hit with a broomstick. I can hit the curveball when I know it's coming. When I have no idea and I'm just up there swatting at flies, I'm not going to hit much anything. So how much of the mental approach is involved in your instruction?
Well, the mental approach is the separator. I'd say it's 80% plus of the success of a hitter. And the thing that separates, I think the mental game is the separator between minor league hitters. The given ability that the separator is the mental game. Like a big league guy can go 0 for 4 and come up for his 5th at bat, maybe with 3 punch outs already on the game, and still expecting to get a base hit and win the game in his next at bat. I mean, when I saw that at the big league level, I only coached at the big league level for a year, and and that was the biggest thing that I saw. Like a guy like Altuve could go up and be 0 for 4, but he expects to get a hit in his 5th at bat, and it's just not only him because he's a good name guy and a good hitter, but I'd say mostly throughout the big leagues that the confidence level is extremely high. The ability to focus is off the charts.
I agree totally. Those guys are playing up there for huge sums of money now, and they're expecting production from the business side and from themselves. So it's they don't wallow in their own sadness. They get after it and then work on it. They tune it up every day. I know, you're right.
Yeah. And the information is endless. The video and the video of the pitchers who are going to be pitching that day, the starter that day, the relievers, the information on what pitches they throw, on what counts, what pitches they throw for strikes, what pitches they throw for balls. And just being able to go into the video room at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and watch the guy who you're going to see tonight, on top of your library as a hitter that you've already built up because you've seen guys before. And so, I mean, that's the reason I think why you see a guy who big league guys aren't familiar with, sometimes they struggle with it.
Well, you got all those resources there. There's no way you can fail, really and truly. As far as hard contact goes, you might not get hits, but you're going to be putting the bat on the ball in a hard way. So, you're right. You got those kind of resources, you should be doing pretty well as far as hard contact goes.
And that almost sounds like being a Major League Baseball a player is a full-time job as opposed to just going out there for the 3 hours on the field. You got a lot of mental preparation before the game if you're going to be studying pitchers and what they throw in certain counts and what they throw in certain base running situations. There's a lot of skull practice there to get prepared for each and individual game.
Definitely. Different guys different guys go about that in different ways, right? Some guys can't get enough. Some guys don't want to get too much, you know. And so but it's all there. If you want it, it's there. And if you don't want it and you're not performing, well, we're going to see it in AAA. You know,
exactly.
You've got just like you guys are saying, all the information, everything that you need is available to you.
How now you were with the Astros that year, and did they take advantage of that stuff? All that.
Oh yeah. I was the assistant hitting coach. John Maley was the hitting coach, and Maley was really into this, and there was an analytical front office where all they did was study stuff, where they come up with catcher's framing, for example. That's become a big deal, and as far as I'm concerned, that started right there with the Astros, and then the Maley would always be posing questions to the analytical guys about, hey, when we're doing short pitch, in order to get the ball on the same downward plane as if it was coming off from a mound, if we were at this distance away from home plate, should we be sitting down or standing up or on one knee? And then they go and they figure all that stuff out, and then they bring it back, and then that's what we do. If we had an issue, we just take it to the front office, and they study it out, research it, bring the info back, and we try to put it into effect.
That's deep. It's very profound.
Absolutely. Where are you located now? What are you doing nowadays?
Located in Phoenix, and doing private instruction with all ages from probably 10 to college.
I bet you're staying busy too, huh, Ralph?
Staying busy, doing a lot of those lessons, probably about 35, 40 lessons a week. Yeah, it's good working out of a small little mainly softball facility, working with softball and baseball players. And you know what? The whole deal about it is that if it's whatever we're just working out those biomechanical absolutes that whether you're 12 or whether you're 32, they're all the same.
Yes, I agree. Definitely.
Very good. Well, Ralph, we certainly appreciate your time today. Best of luck and continued success with your instructions.
Hey, well, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Great opportunity talking to you guys.
You bet, Ralph. Good talking to you again as well.
Got it. Talk to you. Thanks.
You bet.
That's our time for this episode of A Visit to the Mound. Many thanks to our special guest today, Ralph Dickenson, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments or anything you would like for us to cover, we'd be more than happy to hear from you. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Visit to the Mound, or on our website at avisittothemound.com. Make sure you like, subscribe, and review this podcast, and be listening the next time we make A Visit to the Mound. That'll wrap up this Visit to the Mound. We certainly appreciate you joining us today for a little baseball talk. Anytime you want to hear something about baseball, you can find us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can go to roguemedianetwork.com for the next edition of A Visit to the Mound.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.